52.
Basically, this generation is more liberal, more tolerant, more Democrat-leaning than the one before. It's not just because they're young.
For another point of view, it's Hard News with Russell Brown and Wammo on Kiwi.
From publicaddress.net, then also the Media 7 show on TVNZ7, Russell Brown this morning. Morning, Russell.
Good morning.
Who's been standing by waiting to interview Alan Bollard this morning because you've read his book, which you'd think would be very dry, boring, kind of read, but it's anything but from what I hear.
Yeah, it's an extremely accessible book, and that was the idea of it. It's called Crisis, One Central Bank Governor and the Global Financial Meltdown. I think I got the title right there. And he made the decision to, rather than as Reserve Bank governors tend to give presentations to a closed circle of his peers, made the decision to write an accessible book for a general audience.
Okay.
And it's actually a really interesting book.
Now, there was some pretty high-stakes stuff going on back in 2008, wasn't there?
Yeah. I mean, the one that really jumped out at me, and I blogged about this yesterday, is that in October 2008, the Reserve Bank issued 7 times its usual number of $100 notes. And that really only meant one thing, which was that people were taking the money out of the banks.
So that was effectively a mini run on the bank.
It was, yeah, and it could have gotten a lot worse. And they were sitting quietly hoping no one else noticed. And there's actually a lot of that in the book, where the Reserve Bank knows something and Alan Bollard hopes that... you still there?
Yep.
Okay, Alan Bollard hopes that that journalists don't ask him difficult questions. And I've already ruffled the feathers of a couple of financial journalists with my take on what he says in the book.
Yeah.
But it really looks like there's several points through the book where he basically goes, phew, they didn't ask me the hard question that I couldn't answer.
Yeah. But in this case, that was kind of for the greater good?
Yeah, it was, absolutely. And I've talked to a couple of journalists since who said, well, yeah, by the same token, we fielded rumours constantly around that time of runs on banks and financial institutions, and we didn't print those either because that would be irresponsible. So there was a real need to remain calm.
Yeah. And what else really leapt out at you is quite extraordinary?
Just that thing of so-called asymmetric information, where the Reserve Bank knows something, hopes the markets don't know it, and hopes we can all get through without anyone panicking because things were actually quite bad.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask him about that actually.
Yeah.
And of course the other thing that really jumped out is towards the end of the book he mentions the Reserve Bank Annual 2010, which of course is public address blogger David Hayward's satirical book, in which Alan Bollard, a very different Alan Bollard, features as a character.
That's right.
Yeah.
What does he say about it?
It gave them some cheer in dark times.
Huh.
So David was delighted to hear about that as well. I've got a copy of the book that I'll get the governor to sign for David. But it's nice that they took that book in the spirit that it was intended. And I know for a fact that Bollard bought quite a few copies for friends and family. And when we launched it in Wellington last year, he sent down the Associate Governor of the Reserve Bank, Don Abel, to make a wee speech and bring a message, which was, don't buy this book, it's a load of rubbish. So, I think it was all taken in very good spirit.
And when you interview Alan, will you be getting his signature?
Yes, absolutely. I'll get him to sign David's book, and well, of course, we all have his signature, don't we?
We do.
Yeah, he issues the notes.
Sometimes his signatures are more valuable than other times.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
And finally, before we go, there is an issue that's sort of heating up over in America, the don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah. Basically, the way things stand in the US military is that you can be gay so long as you don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
If anyone finds out, it's over. And you've had Lady Gaga, among others, campaigning for the repeal of that. Obama has said he favours the repeal of it. But so crazy is the American system that with a 56 to 43 majority in the Senate, the Democrats could not even get it into the Senate for discussion. And this is part of a big defence bill as well. They thought they'd sneak it in there and the Republicans wouldn't dare block a major defence bill, but they've done it. It's completely insane. And I have to say, some of the liberal blogs in the States, particularly America blogs, I thought surely they can't blame Obama for this, and they have.
Yeah.
It's not Obama's fault that the Republicans have block voted in this way. And you kind of think, how does anything ever get done in America where you've got a huge majority, but the Republicans can still filibuster it and stop it even being discussed? It's a completely lunatic system, and you really wonder how anyone manages to govern anything in that country.
Do you think that Jon Stewart's, what is he calling it, March of Sanity, will have any effect?
Oh, it'll have an effect for the people who think that Jon Stewart has his head screwed on, but there's a lot of loonies in America, and that's actually something that comes out in the Bollard book. He worries about American political culture. Anyway, hey, my producer is looking anxious and impatient here, so we better go and do this thing.
Good luck with Alan.
Okay, cheers.
Cheers,
Bye.
Russell. Russell Brown at publicaddress.net, also the Media 7 show on TVZ7, where you will see that interview with Mr. Alan Bollard.